Welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farrand, owner of the company Horns of Odin. Before we jump into the show, I do have to give a shout out to our revamped Patreon. We've spent a lot of time over the festive period working on this, and we've added a couple of new things and also shaken around, moved some of the old rewards. So on there now, it starts at £3 a month, which works out at about 10p a day. So it's like buying me a cup of coffee once a month. And for that, you're going to get the bonus Q&A with each guest we do. We have a Q&A after the main show. You can ask your questions or you can submit them before and get a little bit of insider knowledge, I guess, insider interaction after. And also people ask a bunch of questions that I miss in the main show. It's like having an extension of the main show. They're always a lot of fun. And you're also now going to get the storytime episode that we do with Jonas Lorentzen. That's been moved down onto the entry tier. So you're getting a lot more bang for your buck. So then the tier up from that, we've added a brand new show, which is a creator episode. But so basically, I'm going to be joined by a creator once a month, somebody in the Viking crafts world, and they're going to show me what they do, how they do it. We're going to get in depth on their skill, and it'll be a lot of fun. A lot of people are really looking forward to that. So again, that's on the next tier up, and the one up from that, you get a bunch of discounts off from Horns of Odin. So they all have their own benefits depending on what you're looking for. So if that sounds interesting, please just pop onto the Patreon /Nordic Mythology podcast and check it out. That's enough waffling from me. Let's get into today's show. So I'm joined by, I think, unarguably one of the nicest people in the whole of the Nordic music world, and that's Kati Rán. Kati, thank you for joining.
Hi, Dan. Nice to be back here again.
Is it the third time now?
It's I think it's the second time that it's being publicly released. So, but it is the third time we record a show together. Yeah,
no, I think it's the fourth time we've recorded. One we lost.
Yes.
I think we've done. I'm sure we've done two shows in the past.
Really? Okay, maybe.
Think so.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
I think so. But yeah, we did famously lose one, which hands up, was completely my fault. You sent me this was back in the day when we used to record all the different parts locally to myself, Matthias, and the guest, and we would have the guest send us their audio file. Kati did send me the file on WeTransfer, and I didn't download it. It expired and you had deleted the file.
Yeah, it's lesson learned, case closed. It's good to see the upgrades, so it's always like that.
Yeah, we've moved on since there, because for a short while there I was heartbroken.
Oh, yeah, but we always find a new way to record sometime. So it's good to be here again.
So I guess for anybody who I think I've said on here a bunch of times, every podcast is somebody's first podcast. So do you want to give a little shout out to who you are, what you do, where people might know you? I don't know, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my artist name is Kati Rán. I am a Dutch musician that creates Nordic music, Nordic folk music. I work for a very long time, back in the early days, with historic instruments, medieval instruments, and all kinds of ethnic objects that make sounds. And yeah, I started to work in audio production and release music albums. Well, occasionally, rarely, but that's my passion. I also do audio recordings for other companies or TV series or video games. But yeah, I really love the Nordic mythology, And
Oh, I thought you were going to say I really love the Nordic Mythology podcast. Then I was going to be like,
yeah,
oh.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That would have been a nice audio snippet, but
But you're
no,
not getting it.
I love Nordic mythology. I love all kinds of mythology actually,
Mhm,
and history. So I'm I think kind of a total nerd in that area, and this is also yeah kind of like what I've always dialed back to is these old stories and now when we're talking about a new record I combined this with more personal concepts and spirituality I guess but yeah that's one of the main topics that run
mhm,
through my music and instrumentation so I guess that makes it also kind of really fitting for a show like this so yeah
mhm.
that's how I'm here.
That's you.
Mhm.
Um, Jennifer left a nice little comment in the chat. She said that she believes that you were the first introduction into Scandinavian music, hearing about your work from the podcast. So
Oh
that's nice.
nice Jennifer, yeah.
That is very nice. Yeah, so I introduced you as the one of the nicest people in this music. I don't think we've ever come to a proper term for the genre, but and that doesn't go without good reason because I I can't count how many times we've had musicians on here who at some point throughout their career have referenced and mentioned you along their journey. So I had Annika on a couple of weeks ago, and again, your name popped up once again, as with so many other people, as somebody who has helped with other people's journey. And I think it's lovely. And I've said it to you before. You know,
Yeah,
I applaud how much you selflessly help so many
well,
other artists.
that comes, I think we covered this the last time we did a
Mm-hmm,
podcast together, but that comes from a basic idea of approaching this as a community. And also it does come from a personal passion and interest of mine to also do not only music and audio production, but also actually a little bit of A&R and public relations. And so yeah, if I it's not only selfless kindness, it's sometimes also just doing a good referral because it makes sense.
mm-hmm,
And so yeah, it's what people do with that is of course up to them and but it's yeah, it comes second nature.
mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it is. It's not. It is nice to see because I assume, obviously, you know a lot better than I do in music. I imagine it can be a place that can quickly become quite a selfish place in a sense of I guess anybody who's been in any sort of craft gets this feeling probably at some point of I don't know if insecurity is the right word, but where you worry that if you're helping other people, it might in some way diminish your own progress. And I think a lot of people suffer from that where they struggle helping because it is this fear of like, oh my God, if they do good, then I'm not going to do as well. So it is a very lovely thing to see when people are willing to just help everyone.
Well, yeah, but absolutely, but it's also it's kind of like just having personal philosophy about all of these things and I do believe no energy is lost
Mm-hmm,
and sometimes things come full circle in one way or the other so it's yeah I think it's not only about helping it's about really understanding that we're all connected to each other and
mm-hmm,
so in that sense if I take a really high bird's eye view I'm helping myself as well
mm-hmm.
so it's really yeah but yeah I think if we jump into the topic of my new record
Mm-hmm.
and talking about this full circle situation, how energy sometimes also returns back to you. I think my record is a great example of that because I have quite a lot of people who specifically were asked, um, but have really taken a beautiful energy onto the album with, for
Mm-hmm.
example, guest vocals or doing amazing extra drum sections with the drummers of Heilung. And they are in a ton of bands, but they're most known for this. or vocalists, from other projects. And
Mhm.
so I think that's just beautiful. That's
Yeah.
community. I think that's one of the main things also on the album. So yeah, so it
Yeah.
all comes back,
It does. It does, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Mhm.
Because we do live in quite a selfish world, I think, at the minute. There is a lot of people who look out for themselves and don't always look out for other people. So it is a lovely thing. And like you said, it is a community thing, and there is that beautiful community feel to this music genre. You know, time and time again, you see people helping each other out, featuring on other people's songs, doing little bits here and there. And it is a really
Yeah,
nice thing.
yeah, and again here it really has to make sense. So whether it's a specific instrumentation that I don't play myself, or if it's really about the energy merging, where I think, okay, this really gives added value to this particular song, then it just makes perfect sense to work together. Like one of my most natural feeling collaborations is with Gal,
Mhm.
Christian from Norway, Bergen, and also here it just there's no trade-off. It's like it just comes so natural to co-create, and so when I asked him to be on uh, quite a lot of new songs, uh, it was so naturally a yes for him too. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Uh,
Of course, if you're always willing to help other people, the time when you are then in that position, it's easier to then have that back. You know, people do want to repay kindness, hopefully. Anyway.
yeah, but it's also about really creating, yes, and
Okay.
creating something where
Hmm.
you feel, okay, this makes sense to create together. This is the type of, the way I approach music is anyhow, maybe not a very typical way. Sometimes I don't even consider myself a true musician, but more like a creator of sorts. And and some of these tracks they take years, and that doesn't have to do with inactivity. Sometimes there's a lot of activity in the background of your own personal life or of the team, that it's so dense that you really need to plow through it to sort of really feel you grasp something before you actually create something with it,
Hmm.
and use those tools and techniques that you feel you want to implement on creating audio or sound sorcery of sorts.
Hmm.
And so I think for me, we're not, to say it crudely, we're not making hot dogs. It's not like we're doing a single every 3 months with
Yeah.
a few samples and some lyrics that are just like pretty generic. This is really, this whole album has been taking so long because it's also been my life, my personal journey, my moments of uh, where I felt, okay, now I think I've got enough to ground to stand on to work with this material for this track.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's also funny because some of the lyrics were written back in 2015, and are
Wow.
not seeing the light of day until now.
Hmm.
So it's, yeah, quite a
That.
journey. It's really like a journey of like searching for treasures.
Hmm. No, I love that, and hopefully we're going to get into the process
Mm.
shortly. One thing that you said kind of struck me, or at least made me think. Then is you said, it's not creating for creating's sake. You're working with someone because you want to make something special, and that had me thinking. Do you have to resist the urge to call on all these people that obviously you've met throughout your long career in this area, like pulling everybody in and just
Mm.
want to get people in because having some of these names or people involved, I guess gives things a little boost. And
Yeah, we can't deny that there's of course a factor of that when you co-create with other artists, that you lift each other up and
Mhm.
put each other in view. But for me, there has to be more to it than just a name, of
Yeah.
course. It really has to make sense, whether it's a specific sound or someone's energy,
Hmm.
in the voice or, with the soul coming tied
Yeah.
to the voice. It has to make sense. But there have been moments on this album where it was really fun because it opened up to have more people. But there it's not about the feature name. So it's like, for example, we have choir moments.
Hmm.
Some are performed by a Icelandic female choir called Umra Ensemble. There it made sense because I felt if I work with material from this country and from their history, I feel I want to connect it to the land. And
Hmm.
I don't want to bypass the natives in a way.
Yeah.
Um, but I really felt I want to make that connection with Icelandic singers. And so there it made total sense to have a group of women do these wonderful, wonderful backing choir, but also sort of give that energy of support. But there's another song, which is one of the most, you could say, punk folk approaches to music I've done because it's
Okay.
kind of in the style of a flitting or like an old Norse rap battle. And there
Uh-huh.
I have called in some friends, like to have the most amount of female voices I could find in the time frame I had to record
Hmm.
those extra uh, screams actually of girlfriends, like friends all in my circles, like, hey, you want to join this because we're doing it with a whole
Hmm.
bunch. And then it's, of course, it's good for the audio because it really gives that weight. It's not like one voice that does only a lot of harmony layers, but it's really a lot of different voices.
Hmm.
But it's also there. It was actually a really fun group feeling to say, okay, yeah, let's do this with all the girls. Let's tell them how it is. For
I
sake
love that.
that track. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that because I feel like if I was in your position, I would be calling everybody just for like, come on, just get on this.
Yeah.
Let me get a feature of on here.
No, 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 that hasn't been really the case. I
No.
think there's only one song where well, maybe two, but there's one ballad, like a proper ballad between a
Hmm.
male and a female voice. And there, of course, the male singer, we did actually look into who could fill this role best. From a public relations point of view, but also from an emotional and sound and voice type of view. What could really work
Hmm.
well here to do a duet. But my producer slash co-producer, with whom I made all these new songs together with Jani Pehu from Finland,
Hmm.
he performed the demo vocals for this song, and then we started to look for the right male sort of counterpart to fill that voice. And we kept returning to the original
Oh,
demo
really?
vocals because it was recorded in kind of like an emotional point during
Hmm.
the co-creation of this album, and it was so real and so heartfelt, and it was so good. And
Yeah.
so why look on when the magic was already made?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so there we have kind of like a feature situation, I guess.
Hmm.
Or yeah, it's a real ballad, a real duet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love that.
Maybe
Yeah.
we'll do more of those in the future, but it's not based on the idea of calling in
Hmm.
big names. That would
No,
be
no, no.
fun, of course. I'm always open to stuff like that, but that shouldn't be the goal of the
No,
music.
I absolutely
Yeah.
shouldn't. I was just saying how I was fickle, and
Yeah.
I would probably do that
Yeah.
because you know. All right, so let's get into the album as a whole. I'm not, at least I guess what we can and can't talk about.
Sure.
I feel like you're gonna con not control me, but like make sure I don't say too much here.
Oh yeah, because Daniel has had the full album preview
Hmm.
as a press
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I genuinely felt very privileged. Um, I, I, I always feel like it's very odd when I get like press
Yeah.
things. It's happened a few times through the podcast. You know, like at Midgaspo, we got like a press thing, and me and Mateus were very kindly sent to see the Northman, sorry,
Yeah.
like ahead of time as like press. So it's very weird whenever I get anything. It's like, oh, I'm not press. I just like talk to cool people that I like. But thank you very much. You know, it's I I would uh as I said before, you know, I think you're one of the nicest people in this sphere. So even if I didn't like it, I would have to sit here and be like, oh, I loved it because I like you so much as a person. So then
Oh.
no. So it makes it so much easier when I listen to it and I genuinely like something. It's
Yeah.
almost like that. I feel that relief whilst I was listening to
Yeah.
it because it is
Yeah.
because you know we've done
I
this
can
for long enough.
imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've done this for long enough. We you know we've hung out in person. We get on. I would go as far to say we're friends. So you know you build that relationship. So then when somebody sends you something, particularly like a piece of work, especially one that's not out in the public sphere yet,
Hmm.
it was kind of terrifying to listen to because it's like, what if I don't like it? What do I
Yeah.
do? What am
Yeah.
I? How am I meant to sit here for an hour? You know, an hour and a half, and
Well,
talk
that's
about?
the gamble we all take when we listen to new music, and
Absolutely.
especially because artists evolve. And so
Hmm.
my record has evolved also. The soundscapes have, well, evolved. Well, they change with time because people change with time. And that means their output, of course, is affected by that too. And, you know, or they develop some new interests or skills. So for me, I felt for this record, it's called Saula, which is
Hmm.
an Old Norse word for both sea and soul, you know. And for this record, I really felt okay. I want to also tie in. I want to bring it in the now. Like I don't only want to use old text sources. I really want to combine and work with my own poetry in it, but also sound-wise, I wanted to use uh, a few new elements. And
Hmm.
one of those elements was sort of to break free from the restraint of everything needs to come from nature.
Hmm.
Because I think the magic, of course, it's very strongly present in natural sound and in our old instrumentation, and so of course there's a ton of that on the album, including also old text excerpts. But I felt okay, I really want to tie it in, in reality, in where we are here and now. And so I personally also love to listen to different genres of music. And so I've added synth modulation sounds, a little bit of industrial elements, and a little bit of this and that. And so yeah, that of course that can be an evolution where part of your audience, when they listen to the record for the first time, they have a moment of like, oh, what is happening now, and do I like it or not? But that's really up to the people to decide individually. Taste is individually there.
Hmm.
But I really love it to blend folk music or something that has deeper roots or like a specific folk rhythm, for example, and but still to be free and see how it naturally wants to develop, what direction it wants to have, you
Hmm.
know. And same with poetry. When I write that, I usually have like there's a melody in there, so it just wants to go there, and
Hmm.
then it's a matter of working it out, sort of grinding through it to make all the elements fit. And in my case, I also stay open to surprises, which led to when we're talking about the first song that is going to come out 9th of February, Stone Pillars, led to
Hmm.
a total surprise vocalist, because the universe just oops sent that person to contact me, and I was like, "Who are you?" Yeah, okay, it's Mitch Harris from Napalm Death. What? What's happening here?
You know what? I thought I recognized that voice.
Yeah, yeah,
Because obviously I've listened to the album quite a few times. The last few days I've had it on repeat, but I knew that was the one song that I guess we were explicitly allowed to talk about.
yeah.
So I've had that one on repeat on top of repeating the album. And I kept coming back to that voice and I just couldn't place it because obviously the one you sent me doesn't have any like feature names or any names from anything.
Mhm.
So I was like, I recognize this voice. Now, where is it coming from? But I didn't then want to ask you about it if it wasn't something that we weren't allowed to talk about.
No, you can ask me anything. And if I really can't say it yet because I don't want to spoil the surprise for the second single or like
Mhm.
all of that's coming on the promo train, from
Yeah.
the label, then I will tell you like, okay, let's keep that for later. So don't you can say whatever you want if based on what you've heard on the record. But yeah, when we talk about Stone Pillars, that song that is a story on its own because that has a lot of these surprise elements and also some sound elements that I just had to have. So if I take it to the beginning, the lyrics were written in 2015 in
Okay.
English. And now, of course, we know that the work I've released in the last years has not been English at all,
Mhm.
unless it was for like something completely different projects.
I have to say I appreciated it being in
Yeah,
English.
that's,
I did like
yeah.
it being in English.
But I haven't written it with actually the Raan themed album in mind, this poem. It was actually coming from an idea long back in the day to maybe do something with Calandra sometime before they were a little bit more known. And so, but it was like the first idea that I came to mind, and then I had English that could be a good basis then. But yeah, the song just like wormed its way into the album. It had to be on there while it was progressing. Um, I felt okay for this song. If we're talking about stone and stone pillars, I want to have the sound of stone. It was a
Mhm.
sound I always have sought out that I sometime in the future wanted to record with it. And this is this slate and lava stone marimba in Iceland
Okay.
that has been used in a fantastic, one of my most loved songs called Rafnagaldur's Odin with Steindor Anderson and Hilma Ormondson, yeah, and Paul Gudmundsson
Mhm.
on this massive stone marimba that he built, for this piece. And I think a lot of people, when I started to inquire in Iceland about this instrument, hey, who made it? Where is it? Is it still there? A lot of people thought it was dismantled or maybe not
Mhm.
in use anymore after that performance.
I feel like I've seen that on a
Yeah.
documentary somewhere.
Also, Sigur Rós was part of this song, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember
Yeah.
where. I feel like I've seen it on
Yeah.
a
I couldn't let
documentary.
it go. I
Mhm.
knew I had to find the instrument. I thought nobody who's going to create this is going to throw it away. So I
Yeah.
wanted to dive on, search on. And it
Mhm.
was during the time where I was creating Unnar Mind Beach when I worked with Borgar Magnusson on contrabass, this fantastic deep string sound.
Mhm.
He knew he had the golden tip for me for this instrument. It's somewhere east of Italy, this countryside barn with Paul Goodmanson. And then I had to use a native talker to be able to, an English translator to
Oh,
native
wow.
to actually contact the owner. And so I thought, okay, now I got the contact. That's part one. That's not being there yet and recording with it. That would be kind of like a big thing.
Yeah.
So it still took a few years to actually end up to the point where I could record with the instrument, visit the country to do
Wow.
that, to travel there, to have the whole meeting set up, to bring my microphones, all of my stuff, in my
Mhm.
backpack to be able to record his instrument and uh, him playing and to sample the instrument to be
Mhm.
able to fine tune it later if need be. And so that was, it's one of those things where when we talked earlier about, these are not like hot dogs on sale. This is something like we really work through. We do the work. We research it, not only the topic, but also sometimes the sound. We really hunt for it. And that means it takes effort and it takes patience. And, for this song, I knew I wanted to have that sound and it worked. I persevered. Another check on the treasure hunt, list.
I absolutely love that
Yeah.
because, and again, that's why I love doing this podcast, because without conversations like this that can go out into the public area, people wouldn't know that it would just be this really cool sound on a song, and it would be difficult for you to, I guess, to get it really out there, this journey that you've had to go through to create this one sound within this song that most people aren't going to pick up on.
Yeah, it has 157 layers in total. So not all of them are to the front of the mix. So, but a few of those layers is this sound, and but this is what I mean. It's like it creates a sort of having that story attached to the song alone. Is already making it for me personally such a beautiful thing to have been creating together with, of course, the people along the way to get there. And it is some sort of an added value. It is some sort of an added magic that sound does come from the country. It does come from the stone. It's literally a nature-based instrument. So, but of course made by the guy, to find these stones to have exactly this tonality and to collect those. That's a story on its own as well. And so to have that part of the song, it made sense for me, because the lyrics, for the geeks and the nerds of Nordic literature, Nordic history and mythology, there's a ton of beautiful references and sneaky things. So I do think about some sort of a council happening, sort of an all thing, like a thing gathering.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things. I talk about, the mind going mad, actually. So it's like a very deep and introverted song. And, where your mind gets heavier and it starts to churn and deeper, and you're really like on the edge of losing your own mind, where you start to doubt your reality, you start to doubt your sanity. I'm not sure if that's relatable for everyone, but it's probably related for some.
I'm sure it's relatable for most people at some point.
Especially after the madness we come out of, those years. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. But you said you wrote this in 2015, so that was pre.
Well, that was part of the lyrics, and that's what I mean. The song has its own story, or like unraveling through time. To tell. So I knew when I had the lyrics, okay, I would still want to work with this Toad Marimba sometime. I think this matches together. But the chorus part, the maddening line, that was written later. But it fitted perfectly to the rest of the theme. So we have references to the thing, to some sort of court situation. And from there, I had all these visions about these 3 Norns or 3 witches type, like Shakespearean, cauldron stirrers of fate, So there we have the Icelandic choir ladies and me doing those voices, Gal, as well. And I thought, okay, yeah, what's coming after a thing like that? A thing like that. And so the song evolves into a modern prophecy, or like a side seance put to sound, including all the elements that I could tie into it, having read Clive Tolley or Elder Heide, having been very interested in also the practical research. I thought, okay, let's recreate the scene and put in some new riddles, because it's so fun to read about these old riddles in Voluspa and questionnaires. Who am I? Do you want to know more or what? So I thought, okay, why don't we write a new one? Why don't we embody that seer, go for it, put in some Boulevard references, and there you go. So there's a lot to unpack. I will leave the rest for personal interpretation because I think it can be have a different content for listeners, different listeners.
Yeah,
depending
absolutely.
on which layer they focus on in the track. But yeah, it's been Stone Pillars has been the story of its own. And that's just one of the 13 album tracks. So yeah, it took 9 years to make this album.
So
Yeah.
was that has it been 9 years since you released the last album?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful number.
It is a beautiful number.
Time. Yeah.
But I mean, when you're hunting down mysterious hidden instruments, you can see why maybe it's taken 9 years.
Yeah. For example. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, you want to just really grasp the material a little bit and
you can get a sense of listening to it because it's not a short album either. You're definitely getting your money's worth with it.
It's close to 1.5 hours.
Yeah, it's definitely not short, but you get a sense that this wasn't something thrown together, and it's quite interesting because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday about. Have you ever seen the TV show Black Mirror?
I love Black Mirror. Yes,
so I love Black Mirror, but I think it's progressively got less good as the series have gone on. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about how, Charlie Brooker, the gentleman that wrote it, the first series, 2 series, he probably had those in his mind for 10 years. And he just never got the chance to make this program. And he just worked and worked on them and eventually got the opportunity. But then obviously when you get the opportunity, you're then told, oh, well, we need a new series next year because this is a super popular TV show now. And obviously it's more difficult to replicate that. So you can kind of to put that back to the album, you get that feeling that this is something that is special. You put so much time and effort into this. It's not a case of, oh, we need to release an album, so we're going to just put one out there. This is an accumulation of all these different things of that's happened in 9 years. 9 years of somebody's life is a long time.
There's a lot that can happen in 9 years, and when I say, okay, Saula, album title Sea and Soul, it's of course tied into Rán and her 9 daughters. So a lot of the track names refer to the 9 daughters. But it's also, when it comes to the aspect of soul, has been a journey of soul retrieval of some sorts, or like finding these aspects of the self and reflecting that back through a whole process. And, that the process of life. So it includes heartbreak, it includes grieving someone you lost, it includes illness. I have endured illness, so you can find, when we talk about use of sound, MRI sounds in there that I
really
worked. So it's very personal, but it's also at the same time extremely open for anyone to relate with, I hope. Or well, it's an offering to the world, and people can take from it what they like or what they need. But yeah, it's been a big thing for me personally to create, and I keep creating, of course.
Yeah.
But I would say it is a cycle. We open with the song Saula and we end with the song Sota, which is peace, or
there's so many different ways. There's so many different directions I want to take this conversation right now.
It's a lot.
That obviously I don't want to delve too much into like any illness or anything like that, but that has to be a brave decision to really put those things into a song and kind of put them publicly out there.
It's brutal, but it's truth. Like, well, it's been my experience, and whether that is a sort of a feminine fleeting of sorts with the Old Norse rap battle, where I'm kind of pissed off in my lyrics, and I actually hope that this will be a thing and that there will come return this ballot. That would be so cool. So I'm just throwing it out there. I would love that. Or whether it's something super personal or has a little bit of the shamanic approach of soul retrieval there as well. You know, like and illness is one of those things. When you work through it, there's really a process you're working through. And so it of course physically it puts you to a halt, or in your career it puts you to a halt, but at the same time, in many traditions at least, you can see it as a form of with a big word, initiation, or there's a life lesson to gain from that. And of course you appreciate everything so much more when you make it to the other side, that life sort of opens up in a new light. And so I think that's one of the most beautiful things we can work with as a material. Of course, it's very vulnerable. There's a lot of moments where I think, oh, this is kind of vulnerable to put out there. But otherwise, it's only half of your story. You know, I prefer to dive in all the way. Yeah. And of course, it also takes, you know, to bring it to the topics earlier of these collaborators or people who join with sound. It takes a special tribe. It takes beautiful people to co-create with you on such a process where they know it is also a personal process. And so I've been very blessed with Jani Pehu, my producer. I say producer / co-producer because a part of the songs I fully produced before, and for the new songs he really produced them, but I also worked every day with him in the audio editing and creation and the writing. And so there we sort of co-produced the songs. And it really takes special people to say, okay, this is not just a pop single that we're making, you know, and especially with the little things I throw out there, whether it is a track where you release anger, or where you release you know, something about heartbreak, or something like that. And you're in the room with your producer, you really need to have a good understanding. And so I was very happy that I was already like personally connected to him before we started to work on the audio. And it also here, it just made sense to say, okay, you are the one to do this record with. Yeah, of course, I always worked very well with Christopher Yu as well. And, you know, we also had that great understanding, but for the other songs, I was very happy to work with him. And I also learned a lot in audio production. So that's a perk, you know, you keep growing. And vice versa, because I'm bringing in these crazy ideas all the time, where I have to explain why I want to have a real Icelandic choir, or you know, or why for a side of seance we take it a step further. And I actually work with for the side of part, I work with raw sexual energy there. And that's also in audio, it's one of those things, like, is it taboo or is it okay, you know? But it's about the material, it's about the delivery of what you're trying to say, and how to best do that and to not compromise.
There has to be a fine line, I guess, when it comes to, especially when you're dealing with topics that are so personal and so emotional. There has to be a real fine line of how far you can push, I guess, when recording these things. Obviously, you have a beautiful relationship with, you said Yanni. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Yanni. Obviously you have you have to have that amazing relationship when you're dealing with such delicate subjects. You have to have that unique relationship where you're able to bare your soul in this environment, like a recording environment. But how do you, I guess, walk that tightrope of not going too far? And do you sometimes just go a little bit too raw, and it takes some time to recover?
You mean, okay, that's a few questions. So you mean like aftermath after recording, or
Yeah, yeah. I guess like to break it down, one, like how do you stop yourself going over that edge? And then I guess if you do, does it take some time to come back?
yeah,
Because I guess anybody who's suffered any sort of serious illness, serious loss of somebody close to them, there are situations where you can talk about them
yeah,
in a nice light, but then maybe sometimes it's just that one thing that triggers it a little too much, and
mm,
then it really upsets you, and it takes maybe days
yeah.
to kind of recover from that.
I think during the process, some parts were recorded by myself, well, but most of them together though. Uh, I think, in that process, you have to give it all, and
Mm-hmm.
it's okay if your voice breaks because you're crying on the record. It's actually, of course, you can do take after take, but what we find is that it's usually those moments that are the most beautiful, and to keep those takes in the song, and it is genuine by keeping that and not polishing that moment where the voice breaks,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you're doing, uh, so that's also when I said, when we talked about the ballad demo vocals earlier, it just makes sense to keep the original ones, because there was the real emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And with other stuff, anger, or like all those other aspects that we cover, um, death, loss, all of it, or this like life energy or sex energy. It's there. You can't put the limits on. You have to give it all, and uh, because otherwise it's a performance. Uh, it
Yeah.
has to be real. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's my rule, I guess.
I,
So,
no, I get that, and it completely comes through
mm,
in the music and in the album. Because like you say, if you hold back, you're always somewhat holding back. And I guess if you're trying to stop yourself going, to a limit, then you're always gonna limit it, and it's never gonna be the authentic product that you want. And I love that you don't remove those, because we live in a society where everything is expected to be perfect. Everybody wants the polished thing, whether it's airbrushed or
mm,
photoshopped, the image, everybody has to tweak it before they post it. Everything has to be perfect.
yeah,
And for me anyway, there is beauty in the imperfect. I love the things that aren't quite as they should be, because there is something unique and special about that. You have that time where you're crying and your voice breaks. That is unique in that instance, that can't be replicated.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And of course, for clarity, of course, there are moments where we do, take several takes and choose the best ones. I mean, that's like, I don't want to like sort of wash over it as if everything in the album has
Mm-hmm.
been in one take. That's totally not the case, but it's been really about having the discernment to say, okay, what elements that are on, all these layers in these songs, some are more audible than others, but they're there nonetheless, have to be real.
Mm-hmm.
And which ones can we um, audio process sort of more professionally,
Yeah.
and take take the takes where you really do something new. And
Mm-hmm.
and there also, by the way, I have also had moments of growth during the creation of the album, because I have different vocal approaches on the track, which
Mm-hmm.
ties in with using different vocal techniques. And so there's like one of the songs, Run, where the chorus is loud and with a top voice, and where there's like a Slavic nasal kind of twist to the voice, you know, and I could hear it in my mind. So I knew if you can hear it in your mind, it's possible to replicate, but still it was a new endeavor for me to sing in this type of voice. And, you know, with vocal coaching on the spot, I've been able to pull out notes of myself that I didn't know I could attain yet. So that's also been really nice. And there it has been, of course, it's been work, you know, hard studio work to say, let's do it again. Let's go over, well, almost C5. Well, not that high, but yeah, it's been good also the creation process itself has been good. And also having the research with this old Nordic literature to say, okay, I've been doing this for a long time now. I might have to take, you know, I might have to take a little side route after this, because I oh my God, those books, I've read them back front to cover now. But it's been really good to say, okay, let's dive in and let's make the record with what the best I could offer. Yeah.
You've done very good. You've been very humble with it, I think.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
You know, it's a passion project. It's taken 9 years, and I think if anybody puts fucking 9 years into anything, they're going to come out with, especially when they're willing to really put their emotions and feelings on the table and put it out there, because that's a scary thing. So I have to commend you for that, because it's you know, it's terrifying. There are moments, you know, on this podcast where I guess I've briefly spoken about aspects of my personal life, because I don't speak too much about this podcast is mainly about me talking to other people, either learning about the things that they're doing or learning from scholars. It very rarely comes back to my personal life. So I guess I've alluded to certain things. And even then, like it becomes terrifying in just saying like the little things or these little comments or little, you know, when I'm making a point, it becomes scary. So then to put it all out into this almost 90-minute piece, and I guess some of it's hidden behind different meanings and in other languages for people who don't, you know, who are English speakers. But it's still there. You got to put your heart out there and go, okay, this is a big chunk of my life, a lot of feeling, a lot of hurt, a lot of emotion of on all different scales. Here you go. It's commendable on any level.
It's about sort of embodying, being the music you make, and so then there's no difference, you know. But of course, I have worked to tie it in with these themes that I had committed myself to. So with these 9 Daughters of Ran, and, you know, having the source material there being rather limited specifically to this very obscure, you know, almost forgotten ocean Nordic goddess of the sea. You know, there's only been a very tiny amount compared to any other, or not any other, but compared to a few others. And so it's been really fun to also say, okay, apart from the personal processing and how can we connect those different emotions to those 9 Daughters of the Sea? How can those waves be different, almost archetypes of emotion, of the feminine current, you know, in the subconscious? And is there a way where we can thread it together? And for me, it meant I also dove deeper into, in particular, the research about the Ceruses and the vulvas and feminine names, like the stories about the women. They're a little bit more hidden, maybe, or a little bit underlighted, but they are, of course, they are there. And I thought, okay, what can we take from here? What kind of emotions do I see reflected back to me in these Nordic mythology stories, or even in history? You know, when we look at temple burnings, how can I tie that into a sense of feeling like you've burned up yourself and have to resurrect something again.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been really well, fun. I don't know if that's the right word, but it has been fun to say, okay, I want to connect these things and work with it from there.
Mhm. So,
Yeah. Mm.
the name of the album, what came first? I guess do you come up with the name of an album first and then kind of work from there, or is it a case of, I guess, when people get to listen to this album, it is a lengthy piece and it is a journey. You get a sense of that kind of, as you said, that wave of going up and down, the ebbs and flows of going through this
Mm.
period of your life, I guess. Yeah, does which a chicken and egg situation, which comes first?
Well, it's not like I made the title before I made the songs.
I don't know how this
Yeah.
works. So I don't know if people
But I
like get an
guess
out.
sometimes that can be the case, but
Yeah.
I've rarely heard of it. I think there's a moment during albums where it's made
Mm-hmm.
where it starts to where the bigger picture starts to come in view.
Yeah.
It's like you're so deep into it that you almost can't see the trees from the forest anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little bit later in the process, you start to see actually the process you've been in.
Okay.
And there I suddenly realized, like, okay, this is about not just about the sea and Raan and these 9 daughters as a theme. There's a lot more going on. This is about the soul. This is about the soul's journey. This is about my soul as well. And so it just made complete sense to say, because we do use not only English, there's only 2 tracks in English. We do use Old Norse, we do use New Norse, we do dialects,
Mm-hmm.
different languages from the north, from Scandinavia. Let's choose a word in Old Norse that is so beautiful because it captures both sea and soul. It's just, yeah, it had to take a while to find the name, or the name found me because I saw it and I knew it. That
Yeah.
was it. That
Yeah.
like it wasn't even a question. There has been zero hesitation. It was just the moment I saw it, I knew that that's the title.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I love when things like that happen.
yeah. This kind of
It's
serendipity. There's something there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So frustrating because you look for you. I mean I don't know how long you spent looking for a name, but I've done it in the past with things where I've
I
spent.
wasn't looking.
Oh, okay.
I knew it would. Yeah, that sounds weird, but well, I am weird. I knew it
No,
would
no,
come
no.
to me when yeah, I knew
No,
it.
that yeah. So that's even more beautiful because I've done it with things in the past where I've like really been looking for a name of something and
Yeah,
I've been looking and looking and looking and looking and I'm like this is impossible. And then
yeah,
when then something comes and it just kind of clicks and you're like, oh, that's so
yeah,
obvious that is clearly what it has to be.
exactly. Yeah, you have to be a little open for signs or the way you've coded stuff
Mhm.
in your world. But yeah, it's there if you allow it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You have to, yeah, like you say, you have to allow it. You have to open yourself up and let these things just come sometimes, and be willing to see the signs because we often walk around, a lot of us with his heads in
yeah,
his phones, not paying attention to
yeah.
everything, and you miss a lot of things.
I keep returning, coming back to that lesson in life is to trust your gut instinct,
Yeah.
whether it's good or not.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I keep getting slapped in the face by that lesson. But the gut feeling is so important to follow because I do believe that we can sort of, if we think of the world, threaded as a web, or if there's a matrix or like some kind of field where we are all interconnected, there are these vibrations you can pick up, and your gut feeling is not always, give people the benefit of the doubt, can be spot on.
It's,
If
yeah,
there's,
it's very commonly spot on as well, though, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it is spooky. I'm sure everybody listening to this has had it at some point in their life, where you just get that feeling of,
Mm.
usually about someone or a situation like this. Just there's no rhyme or reason. There's no
Things
real,
off, but what? Yeah.
yeah. There's no science to it, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there is a science to it. It's probably all about how, our connection and our ability to read people on a subconscious level that we don't even know about, and the different little,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. They
these
all
tiny nuances that we aren't consciously thinking of, but we're
exactly.
just reading body language, all this. But it
Yes.
is fascinating because, again, everybody listening to this has probably had that gut feeling and gone, you know what? Fuck you, gut. I want to do this because I want to do it anyway. It'll be fine.
Mhm.
And then, you know, a year, six, weeks, maybe even 10 years down the line, then
Yeah.
go, oh shit, should have listened to my gut.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is such a unfortunately common experience nowadays, you
Mm-hmm.
know. We don't have, I mean, you see it all over online nowadays, like, okay, careful for this or that red flag, you know, like so. But
Yeah.
I do think it's something to pay attention to, and especially if you think about this, mm, yeah, world view of being interconnected with each other, and so yeah, I just hope that I just hope for clear mirrors around me, and just like we all learn, you know, that's the thing. Whether our gut feeling was right or not, I think everybody has the permission and should have the permission to fail or to f up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we should talk about our instincts sometimes,
We should,
verbalize them.
we
Yeah,
should.
yeah,
And I can sit here, and say, listen to your gut. Everybody should listen to your gut. It's always, it's going to be right, or usually it's going to be right. And I guarantee the next time that there's something I really want to do, but I get like a gut feeling that says, don't do that,
mm,
probably going to ignore it because that
mm,
part of me, the selfish part of me or whatever, is like, I just want to do this. It'll be fine. And next time we talk, we'll sit here and I'll probably have an experience to share with you where I'm like, oh, you know what? Hey, last time we were here, I I said I was gonna listen to my gut and I didn't. This is what
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
So, like you say, we're all human, we're all flawed, and we all are allowed to be flawed, and we're all a little bit too tough on ourselves, I think, sometimes.
yeah, yeah. I do agree with you, and I think this is also something I've, sometimes written about on my music pages. Sometimes I take a little sidestep. I don't only want to post about, hey, look at this single, go listen. You know, that's kind of draining. I also use it as a place where I can sometimes talk about what's on my mind. And funny enough, one of the posts that had a lot of interaction was about mental health for men,
Mm-hmm.
particularly. And yeah, but it's been on my mind. You know, I've been churning about this topic, and I feel it's so important that we talk about these things,
Mm-hmm.
and also our mental health, and just as much as our physical health. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's something that I'm very, very passionate about,
Yeah.
is particularly like in male mental
Yes.
health
Yeah.
is something that is overlooked.
Hmm.
Suicide amongst men it's phenomenally high. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like, it, no, I can't remember the exact statistic, but it is a real sort of epidemic, and it's something that I've suffered with in the last sort of 18 months. More about like my personal situation than most people do, and I've had to go through that journey. And again, I was brought up of a generation of being, big boys don't cry, tough it up.
Hmm.
That's just kind of like how I was brought up, and there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. But then again, my father left when I was 4. So I was raised by my mum and my sister. So I always had that kind of feminine influence into my life, which I'm forever grateful for. But I'm still very much a kind of quote unquote masculine man.
Yes.
To look at me, I look like a masculine man. I like the typical masculine things. So it is kind of drummed into me from a young age of like, you just got to be tough. You don't talk about your feelings. You just get on with it and push them down and bury them.
Mm.
And then obviously when I went through everything in the last kind of 18 months, it was a lot. And I felt myself going into a very kind of sad, darker place that I'd never been in before. But it also gave me a new perspective because I'd never been in that position before.
Yes.
Not that I'd ever looked negatively on people that suffer from depression or sort of mental health issues. I would never look negatively on them, but I guess I would never have been able to relate and understand it until
Mm.
you're in that position. I'd always kind of been of a mindset of, you can just not just be happy, but truly until you're there, you kind of just like, oh, surely you can just do something to make yourself happy or do this or
Yeah.
do that. And until you're there, you kind of then start to realize, oh, this is very much a serious thing. And it can,
Yes.
the only way to describe it is almost like a quicksand that just kind of grabs hold of you and pulls you in. And the further you get, the tougher it is to get out. And it just kind of sucks hold. And one of the greatest things that helped me, other than Rocco, the little cock spaniel that everybody who follows me sees on my Instagram as just an absolute little world saver.
Yeah.
He's been there for me and made me laugh and smile every single day since I've had him, and no matter what place I've been in, he's just been there to make me.
Mm.
But you need more than that, and there's a charity in the UK called Andy's Man Club, and that was set up for men's mental health.
Mm.
And I remember going to that for the first time. It was a terrifying thing, and I remember like my having a knot in my stomach, the nerves, my heart beating because I'd had this idea my whole life of you don't go and talk about these things, and then like putting myself in this position where people around me were like, you need to go and probably address some of this, go and try and talk to this group, and going to it, and then having that kind of those nerves, but then going and being around other people and be not that have been through the exact same situation as you, but have been through their own thing. It's such a leveling thing, and other men, and a lot of the time, gentlemen older than me that I grew up certainly in that generation of you have to be tough, you have to be, and
Yes. Mm.
and and I still go every Monday, 7 o'clock, 7 till 9. And as much as I don't necessarily need it, quote unquote, now, it's very much a cathartic thing for me because you do see other people who who have different problems, but you see that you're not alone. There are always people who are suffering, no matter what they look like on the surface. And I'm a very much a caring person. I love that I can be there and kind of like help talk to people, give advice, and hopefully change someone. That's what I love. I love to do. I'm just an empathetic person through Hornsby. I always like to try to do
Yeah.
phil, philanthropic things. That is something that I just like. So I do like that I get to try and give back, but it is something that is kind of overlooked, and sometimes I think forgotten is this kind of men's mental health for whatever the reason is. Sorry for hijacking. For,
No, don't hijack. No,
the,
I wanted you to have your full story
Mhm.
because it is so important. And if I may reflect back to you of what you just told me, like I'm so happy to hear that you found actually a broader community there and
Mhm.
how when you maybe came for the first time, shit scared,
Yeah,
carried
absolutely.
you, they've been there. And now you can take that role for other people who come new,
Mhm.
but it is also like you say, even though anyone can have the utmost based respect for the topic of mental health and or like depression or it is like you say, until you're there, until you actually have lived it, that opens up a whole new route of thinking, because it's suddenly you realize this can happen to anyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And also, of course, now you have the route of having been able at least to come to a maintainable level, and and being able to have found still community. But it is also your generation, like you say, and maybe also older generations. It's something that I hope we can break also in
I think it
general.
is. Yeah.
Start talking about not only gut feelings, but also
Yeah.
our emotions
Yeah.
and our
Absolutely.
struggles. But it of course it means we all have to be less polished and more genuine. And
It's
yeah.
it is such a tough thing because there are, without delving into too much details, obviously, like I lost somebody close to me who through suicide, but had suffered with mental health for a long time. The biggest part of her life, she suffered from mental health issues. And the thing, being in my position now, and obviously going through the mental health struggles I've had subsequent because of that, has given me a whole different perspective on how I would have loved to have dealt with things prior to that. And it's that almost adds a different layer of complexity to it, because it's like, oh, if I knew all the things I know now, and the
Yeah.
respect and the understanding, I probably could have
Yeah.
helped so much better and been so much more aware and understanding whilst, before this all happened. And it's this kind of weird paradox. And I'm sure there's so many people out there that hopefully are in a position where maybe they just take that extra time to try and understand, because I know I was very dismissive of things, and it's something, one of the biggest regrets I'll ever have. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can just learn from it moving forward. And that's kind of how it
That's what
is.
that is exactly how it is. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
of course. But that also goes for when you pass it on. And of course, also when we look back at our younger self, there's a ton of things, because now we have matured a little, or have learned to do things differently in a way that works out a little better. Or, if we all look back at our younger selves, of course, there's a lot of things we could have done differently, and we could have, um, yeah, maybe altered the change
Yeah.
the course of fate. But it's not. Uh,
You
you can
can't
all
live in that either.
you can't live in that, and it's unfortunate. Like, apart from your personal story, like, but sometimes we need to make mistakes and fail, or handle things not so super smartly, to be able to grow. and
That's
and it has a cost, but it at least, and like, I don't want to, of course, put your personal situation exactly on top of this what I'm saying now, but of course, yeah, we can do anything better in hindsight, but you grow to be who you are because of all your lived experiences, and hopefully put it to good use. And
yeah.
and
Yeah.
some things cannot be changed in the past, but some things can be forgiven or alleviated, just by
Yeah.
the acknowledgement of, I know so much better now.
Yeah. I'm certainly a different person now than I was, you know,
Yeah,
two, 24 months ago. It's a completely different person. And
same for me.
I'm
Yeah,
sure you're a completely different person.
same. Completely different from 10 years ago also, like internally. But yeah.
You change and you learn. And I would like to think I'm a better person now from it. And it's to loop it back, it is this idea, like, I think of like sacrifice, and to put it back to I guess Nordic mythology, Odin sacrificing himself to himself to gain the runes, um sacrificing his eye to Tyr sacrificing his hand to contain the beast of Fenrir. You have to give something to
Yes.
receive something back. And I
Mm.
feel like that's probably a lot of the case where in these instances where you have these events happen where you lose something without a doubt,
Yeah.
June 2022, that I lost a part of me that there's always going to be that you just lose something, but then I've gained something and grown into a different person. And that's probably the same for so many people here that have had these things that have happened on all whatever it is. You lose something, you gain something, and that's the
Yes.
the transaction you have to give. I think
That's it.
you got to pay the
That's it
piper.
then. No, but really, yeah, and that is the price of life in a way, or seeking knowledge and wisdom, or wanting to grow. And I would say, hopefully, we're all a little better than how we were before, but
Hmm.
or at least have grown, and so your perspective widens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was always going to be fun, wasn't it?
Of course, it's always deep with talking with you. So
It
it's
is.
good.
It is.
I like that. I
We
like
usually
that a lot.
we usually had Mateus there as a little figure to pull us back, I guess. But
Yeah, and question us on our not knowledge.
yeah, always keep things accurate. Um, okay, I'm trying to think if I have anything else left to ask about. Okay, you said two of the songs were in English. One of the people in the chat asked if the rest of the lyrics will be available in English, because I think
Yeah,
again that it is important for something that is so personal.
yeah.
Whereas there were definitely some songs in there that
I've
I
been debating about this actually,
yeah,
but like, do I want to keep it for those who want to understand that much that they will find out what it
mhm.
all means, or do I just go for the English translations? I would say at the moment we're working on it to
Yeah.
give at least something.
From my perspective,
Mm.
so I'm of two minds
Mm.
because I love when a song that I don't understand is able to make me feel emotions that I can't really explain.
Mm.
Whether it's happiness, sadness, or some of your songs make me just want to go and not go and fight may not sound the best, but go and like be active, go to the gym, go and work out, really give like that pumped energy. Some of them are really kind of give me that, and obviously some evoke that the sadness and the emotional side. And I love when a song does that when I don't know the lyrics, that it's
Mm.
purely from
That's
a music,
beautiful.
yeah, a
Yeah.
musical standpoint that I'm getting this, and I really like that. But I have to say, with Stone Pillars, like it's in English and I could understand the lyrics. I also got another level to that, and
It's
the
different, huh?
the,
Yeah.
the pulls me in. So I kind of got to enjoy both sides of that whilst
Yeah.
listening to the album.
It's so different because I do. Can I step in on that?
Yeah,
I
yeah, of
do
course.
feel like it's also another like layer we're
Hmm.
taking away,
Yeah.
because it is, of course, it's we all of us here, at least on the podcast, of course, we love the old languages, and it has a value to work with them again. But to go that there, to say, let's, okay, everyone will understand this, most speakers in the world or listeners.
Hmm.
It's just, yeah, I think it's important to also work with that. I actually felt this feels good
Hmm.
to take that step, to take that layer away of mystery, even though it's a very mystic based song, mystic rite based song. To, yeah, to do that. I, yeah, that's, yeah, it's something I love so much that I might do more of it, but we'll see, because the
Okay.
songs they sort of direct themselves. So
Hmm.
yeah.
How do you decide which ones to do in English and which ones to keep in different? Is there a process? Is it a case of like you just decide, or is it since the inception of the song, it's going to be in this language?
And not always. I there was one song where I thought it would end up in Norwegian.
Okay.
But and I actually had an amazing, wonderful work done by Christoph Vassus. I think he's been on the show
Yes. Yes.
for helping me with tweaking that. But I felt when I sang it, it didn't feel right.
Okay.
It really made sense to do that second song in English too,
Hmm.
because that was, yeah, I think also how the poetry was written initially, and that's also a different way, like, of working. You start in English, then translate it, even though done with a professional, sometimes doesn't really capture it. And
Okay.
also I thought in this case, I also want to be more vulnerable and take it to that very understandable level. Although I did kept one line in Norwegian in there. It is Vil du ha alle mine tårer? And it means, do you want to have all my tears? And so I thought this one I want to keep in Norwegian because I just there it felt completely natural to sing it in Norwegian again. So yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Ooh, what a line that is.
Yeah.
What a that like hit me in the feels.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it was kind of like it is one of those lines that
yeah.
captures a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's actually when we're talking about this track now, that is called Himmingsleva.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You can with just a simple line like that, you can get a feel of what the whole song is about. What the I probably what like the idea of it is about. What's everything behind the emotion.
Everything's in there in that
Yeah.
one line.
What
Yeah.
a beautiful line that is.
Yeah, that's why we kept that one. Or I I don't know why I speak in we about myself. Why
Yeah.
I kept it in Norwegian. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's a good line. Yeah.
It is. Wow, wonderful. Is there anything we've missed before we do the Q&A with our lovely patrons?
No,
Was Kati?
I'm allowed. I spoke with my label to say
Oh yeah.
because this will be aired like apart from the amazing patrons here, this will be aired 8th of February, right?
Hmm.
So
Yes.
the single comes out Stone Pillars the 9th of February.
Hmm.
And but I'm allowed to say that the full album Saula will come out worldwide 24th of May
Wonderful.
2024. Yeah.
I'm
So
excited.
yeah,
I mean,
that's cool. You're one of the first to have that out there now.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah. Mm.
Like I said, I'm very excited. I hope this goes as well as it can do.
Yeah.
You're a lovely person outside of the music. You're a very genuine person. So away from just it being an incredible album,
Mm.
I would always wish you the most success when it comes to this stuff. So I really do hope it just
Yeah.
for people who can't
It
see,
would be
I'm just kind of like
great if
going like an
people
upwards.
listen to it. You know what I learned recently, just recently, but you keep learning in the music industry, that it's kind of important that people listen the whole song
Oh, really?
for your streaming. If they look at the charts.
Oh, so they can see, yeah, because
So
they'll be
now
able
I'm
to
not only
see.
gonna ask people to, will you listen to the song, but I'm actually gonna ask them to. I'm gonna demand them to
Mhm.
take those few minutes
Yeah,
and see it through. I
yeah,
know I'm asking something of the listener, but they will have an experience in return if they want to. But that
yeah.
actually makes a very big difference. So yeah, passing it on to
Hmm.
anyone out there, to the listeners, to other artists as well.
Listen to the
That's
whole
cool.
song.
To listen to the whole song. It really
Okay,
matters for your placements. Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
I guess everybody listen to this now. Set a reminder for tomorrow, um, and
Yeah.
make sure you listen to
Midnight.
at midnight.
Yeah.
Um, Listen to the song and make sure you listen to the whole. No, you know what?
Let them decide. But
No, no,
mm,
no. I'm not letting them decide.
mm,
Just put it on repeat. Put your phone down. Well, obviously, listen to
yeah.
it. Listen to it
Mm,
first and enjoy it. Listen as many times as you want, and then put it on repeat and put your phone down and just leave it on charge. Make sure it's on charge so it doesn't lose battery. Leave
yeah.
it on the side. Put it on silent if you're busy and you don't want to hear it. But uh, put it on the side and just let it play. Fuck it. Let it play 100 times because it's a nice thing to do. And let's get as
You're
many like
pushing for that golden record.
yeah, of course. Of course. If ever
Mm,
it's you know what? It's gonna
yeah.
it is nothing out of anybody's day to just listen to it a few times.
Yeah. Well,
So, if you obviously I'm joking, but if you can listen to it, please do. It is fantastic. I'm not just saying that because, we're friends. It's a great song, it's a great album. And I think it will do well. Obviously I will
yeah.
support and push things as much as I can.
Yeah.
But it does matter to the algorithm. It does.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and pre-saves also work, of course, but that's like now we're asking a lot. I'm already happy if they go and listen, if you out there want to do that. But also, yeah, let's just see what happens. At least for me personally, it will be my little gift to the world, 24th of May. Let's mention them too. They're so wonderful, wonderful people in Finland, Svart Records.
mhm.
They are absolutely amazing. So yeah, let's hope it will be a success. But
Perfect.
more
Yeah.
importantly, the treasure is found. The soul is retrieved.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Um, okay, let's do a Q&A and let people um ask
Yeah.
you some questions. Also, Sarah said also in the chat you were her top song on Spotify Wrapped for 2 years in a row.
Wow. Sarah,
So
that's amazing. Thank you.
very um so yeah. Also, I think you said we're allowed to listen to a little part of the song. So let
True.
should
Yeah.
we do you want to do that here or should we save it for the patrons in the Q&A? What do you think?
Um, let's not mess up your video monetization by previewing it during the recording. Let's do it for the patrons now.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do that. Perfect.
because then for your episode you won't get in trouble.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll wrap this up. If you want to hear a little preview of the song before it comes out, subscribe to our Patreon. It's just Nordic Mythology Podcast Patreon/ Nordic Mythology Podcast. And like I say, you get all the Q&As on there with every guest we do. You get the whole back catalog, so you're not just getting from going forward, you get all the ones we've done before. And they're always a lot of fun, but you're going to get a little snippet of the song in this one, and a little extension of the episode, and you can ask your questions if you can watch live. I forgot to mention that we've changed our recording. So Sunday, 6 p.m. So it makes it a lot easier for people to get in and watch because
yeah.
hopefully they're off work.
And it's so much fun also to talk with the patrons
Yeah,
after.
they're lovely.
Yeah.
We have a fantastic little community. So Kati, where can people follow you? I guess best place for people to listen. Yeah, any little plugs?
Yeah, well, you can follow me on the Kati Rán social pages on social media. I'm on most of them, and also all music streaming platforms worldwide. So that it could be anything. Could be Spotify, could be Tidal, Deezer, Amazon, Apple. You can find me under Kati Rán. And yeah, thanks for supporting, for being interested and listening. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Perfect. If you want to follow me personally and see lots of pictures of Rocco, I mentioned earlier, it's Daniel_Farrand1. Obviously, the business at Horns of Odin, and then just Nordic Mythology Podcast on all the different platforms. And don't forget YouTube. YouTube is one that people overlook, but a lot of our guests do bring
Yes.
little show and tell items, slideshows. It's always a lot of fun. And you get to see our pretty faces, Kati.
Yes.
As just sat here smiling. So yeah. You get that as well. All right, yeah, let's wrap this up. Let's do the Q&A.